Before I start talking and before I open the class, I'd like to invite everyone to lie down and just get yourself a blanket or a towel. This is a towel that I've just folded up. It's not as high as it looks. And what I would like you to do is just simply lie over it and place the towel folded right under your heart. So that's would be, well, I guess I don't have to tell you where your heart is, huh? Unless you left it somewhere. But so this right under your heart, sternum. So you're just feeling a very, very light pressure. So I want it to be much more relaxing than sort of a mid-spine compression, opening the ribs. Ribs will just be slightly opened a bit, but just so you kind of open, but not compress too much. So place this, and I didn't roll it so much. The roll will create a more concentrated pressure. I folded it. So it doesn't have to be that high. If you feel like it's a little tightness there, then fold it down. I just want to bring some attention to this area and begin the exploration this way. So. And also what, I was sort of joking about before class, it definitely has a lot of truth to it, where you're not hopefully, listening to most of what I'm saying in an informational kind of way. This practice is really meant for us to spend time with our own bodies and minds in a very intimate way. So outside of the realm of information, outside of the realm of instruction, outside of the realm of self-improvement, but just to rest and to check in and to, in a very personal way, open up this framework in yoga that we call self-inquiry. So yes, please, just allow my sharings to be, just to be background. And that's when I took my own class, that's exactly what it was. It was really nice. So I appreciate that about myself, that I don't listen to myself. So yeah, just make yourself comfortable and welcome, and thank you for attending. I assume that we're going to keep doing this for a while, and I'm happy to do that. And I'm going to just open up with a reading, and it's from a book called Being One by Stephen Harrison. So when I begin reading, that's what I'll be reading from. So let's begin by just bringing your attention to the pulsation of your heart. And so this does take a certain relaxing and a certain quieting down to actually rest into this beating, this pulsating, this vibration of the heart itself, and the muscle of the heart certainly, but also the liquid crystal matrix that is holding the heart. So your heart is being held by this fascial fluid matrix that is allowing an entrainment and a vibration to vibrate throughout your entire body, throughout your brain, through all of your organs, into your gut. So we just simply begin by relaxing and feeling, listening to this pulsation of our own heart beating. And if you're not sure that you can hear it, yes, you can. Allow your mind to quiet and just allow everything to draw inward and become more quiet, and allow this awareness to permeate, feel, and again, listen the pulsation of your own heart. Now the inquiry of yoga. To face our fear, we must face our death. To prepare ourselves to die, to glimpse our death, to live in the imminence of our death is the end of fear. But our biggest fear, the fear we run from the hardest, the fear we spend our lives avoiding, is the fear of death. We know we will die. The body will fall away. The possessions we have gathered and protected so diligently will turn to dust. The money we have worked for and hoarded so frugally will be dissipated. The parents, the spouse, the children, the friends will all die too. The churning of life will include death for everything we have become, everything we know. Death comes not just at the end of our life, it comes every moment. Look closely at the thought body, at the mind as it creates reality through the arising of thought. Thought arises, but then it passes away. The universe is created and destroyed. Observe this carefully. Fear is created and destroyed as it arises and passes away in the mind as thought. It has no substance outside of this arising and the habitual attraction that we feel toward it. Without our attraction to it, our identification with it, our belief in it, fear has no energy and simply withers into the emptiness of a quiet mind. Fear dies. The fear of death dies. We die. We are liberated by this realization, by this death. What dies is not life. What dies are our impediments to the expression of that life. Life expresses itself in us and through us in this death. Because our fear dies, the unknown is born as the very expression of life in the freshness of each moment. So I just want to repeat this one line because to me, it rests in the most essential element of us awakening and being alive and being able to explore our lives without fear, without this fear of a physical death. What dies is not life. What dies are our impediments to the expression of that life. So bring your attention back to the beating of your heart and allow now the breath to weave into this beating of the heart. So in a way, we have this very, very natural synchronizing of our breathing and our heart pulsating. And just to take a moment and just to recognize this pulsing heart, you may even want to place your hand over it, or you may want to make a fist and gently tap on your heart. So we're breathing into this heart space, we're feeling this pulsation of the heart. And then just imagine that this heartbeat is reverberating throughout your whole body. It's in communication with, it's entrainment with all of your cells and all of your processes and your entire condition. So it's not isolated to this pericardium, to this liquid matrix of fascia, but the pulsation is felt in the most subtle places of your body. And I would recommend, if you're going to open to what Stephen was talking about in terms of exploring really the roots of the fear of death itself in all of its illusions, that we also get to connect with how alive we feel when our heart is beating. And this can be very analogous to walking in nature. Yeah, so all around us, we see death and decay, and we see life and rebirth. We cannot separate them. We cannot walk into nature and literally separate it. It's not possible, because at a primal level, they are one. So the beautiful thing about feeling yourself being alive, just moment to moment, this heartbeat, this breath, this aliveness of your cells and your processes, and at the same time contemplating where there may be layers of fear that are inhibiting you from feeling more alive. So it's not one or the other. It's your ability and your capacity, and I would say your birthright, to fuse them both together. To fuse them both together till there's not one or the other. It's just the simple contraction and expansion of being alive. Okay, so let's come on up, please. And let's take out your large bolster. And if you don't have your large bolster, just put some pillows under your knees. So just come up nice and slow and roll to your side, curl on your side, and find your way up. And I'd just like to start gently into the lumbar. And this is probably the most gentle way we can approach the lumbar area, is by elevating both femurs. So pillow, blankets, towels, bolsters, doesn't matter. We just want the compression of the back of the legs and the hips to not be so apparent, so we can really sort of isolate. And from the side, if you're watching, if you're not watching, you just relax the lower back, but not to tend to lengthen it. Yeah, so this is not really relaxing it, because there's muscular engagement. My suggestion is to really, really soften it, especially if there's not a lot of restriction, except that lumbar, maybe the pelvis is tilted a bit. So just come forward nice and slowly. We want to indulge in the slow entrance into the pose, so we can feel nuance and feel sensitivity in the lower back. And no need to find a resting place right away. So you can come in and out a little bit. You can support your arms, maybe between your legs, wherever it's most comfortable. You can put some more bolstering up on the top bolster if you want to support the arms even more. If you're holding some kind of tension, fear, hesitation in the neck area, you explore the weight of the head. Letting the head drop down will draw you into the upper spine, spiraling all the way down to the lower spine. So just make yourself comfortable, and we'll begin. And I'm just going to invite you to explore this metaphor, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's so interesting because it's been with me all week, and I've been really appreciating the simplicity of it. Yes, uh, and it ties into what Stephen was saying. I really wasn't planning on reading that quote from Stephen, but it really ties in such a beautiful way. And the beautiful thing about this self-inquiry is that there's as many ways to do it as there are people on the planet. So the beautiful thing about holding the pose in a safe, gentle way is we are on our own, really, in many ways. Various things will arise at various times. And so we get to, like I said earlier, we're really holding space for ourselves to rest and to bring in the energy, to draw in so we can just be with no expectations on how to be. So we can imagine that the ocean, yes, even though it's not unlimited because we live on a finite planet, if we go to the edge of it, it certainly appears infinite. So we'll just imagine that the ocean is infinite. And symbolically, the ocean for us represents our pure state of unlimited, infinite consciousness, our pure state of expansive, unlimited awareness. So this is just the ocean, yes? And then from the ocean, we get to experience ourselves as a wave. So this is quite lovely, and this can be a very serene experience. This can be a very exciting experience. It could be a very fearful experience. But as we are, once we manifest, once we appear as the wave, we have a tendency to believe, to forget that we still are the ocean. It's the same water. We've not left the water. We've merely appeared as the wave. And so this would be our sense of separate self, our finite mind, our very small relative collection of knowledge, the framework and scaffolding of our ego. So if we forget we're part of the ocean, then all sorts of things start to happen. We have to protect this wave. We have to adorn this wave with accessories. We have to make this wave better. We have to get a collection of books on how to be a better wave. But once we start to remember that this wave is just an appearance of the vastness of consciousness, the infiniteness of awareness, then we can relax. And we just allow the wave to be the wave. And if the wave is a little angsty, if the wave is a little fearful, if the wave is a little arrogant, if the wave is feeling lovely and open and expansive, on some level it doesn't matter, because the wave you eventually get to flow right back into the ocean from where you came and then start the process again. So this is an invitation. It's an invitation to take your exploration without having to have a lot of information, a lot of complication, and just feel this. Feel that you are the ocean and you are the wave. And at the most important level, it's all water. Good. So let us come on up from here, and you can just take the bolster or your pillows out from under once you've come up and just put it behind you. We won't do this for very long. I just want to kind of go back the other way a bit. So just something about an arm's distance from you. And then bring the arms back. If you're able to interlock your fingers, you could do that and place the hands up on this bolster, or if you have pillows or a blanket, or you could just leave them apart. Or if that's not even accessible to you, you just put them on the floor and try to raise them a bit. But I just want to set them in a position with the elbows as straight as possible and just opening the shoulders here. And then just once you've settled, you could just leave the head stationary for a few moments and take an inhale breath and very gently press the lumbar forward a bit. And on the exhale breath, let it relax back in. So certainly we're restricting this mid spine. So this will be, barely any movement, but that's the whole idea. It's like we're breathing in to a part of the structure that we've restricted. And just gentle pressing. The inhalation, we press it forward a bit. You kind of feel the articulation of your pelvis. The exhalation, relax it back. And just a couple of times with this, just to kind of feel sort of an undulating of the spine to encourage that. And then let the head move around in whatever way feels safe. And again, just being really sensitive to the weight of the head and how you might be holding and hesitating in the neck area, because it just can feel very unsafe. And sometimes if we have injury or really deep tension, especially in the scalenes, it can be unsafe. So you want to just be very, very careful and just explore, and maybe make some mental notes of what you might be holding up here. Good. Good. So you can bring the head back to a neutral spine, and let's release the arms. Very nice. And then take that bolstering that you have, and we will put it behind you. If you have the big bolster, we're going to put it vertically from the lower back all the way up so the head can rest on it. So if you're going to, and we're going to sit on the floor. So the thing is with this one, if you're going to use pillows, just make sure the whole upper torso is supported. Yeah, and we'll use these again. So let's see. You can just experiment. The thing is to get an arch in mostly the lower back to have the upper torso and the head supported. So if I was going to use these pillows, I'll just show you, because I don't have to show you with the bolster. I would just kind of tuck things in. Yep. So I'm feeling now the compression into my lower back. I put the towel on that, and then my upper body is supported. Yeah, I won't even need both blankets. Yeah, so this is good. Yeah, so you can reproduce the height and the compression of the long, big bolster with your pillows. Yeah. But we don't want the head or the shoulders to dangle. We want most of the compression, like I said, into the lower back. One of the reasons I was really enjoying, it was really with me the whole week. I went to bed every night just smiling, sort of feeling the tide of the ocean as myself vacillating between uh, this vastness of the ocean, and then manifesting and appearing as a wave, and just letting that wash through me. And I think one of the reasons this came to me is I was thinking about this word, to reify. It's a very interesting capacity that we have as humans to reify. Reification means to take something that is purely conceptual and make it concrete, give it a form. Yeah, kind of like Santa Claus. Although those of you that still believe in Santa Claus, no offense, but I think for the most part, Santa Claus is a concept, and then we turn him into this image. So we, as humans, have that capacity. We can take words like God and spirit and energy and joy and love and make it concrete, turn it into something that it's not. So this exploration can go from, very, very complicated. We can go through thousands of pages of complicated scriptures and try to apply them to the self-inquiry and the nature of ourself. Or we can just allow ourselves to feel that we are this beautiful, ongoing dance of ocean and wave, and not have to, reify it, not have to add spiritual or even therapeutic or psychological elements onto it. Just a pulsation of ourselves, that we appear, and we appear in our identity, and then we fade back into our source. Rest in our source, appear back into our wave-like form, do our dance, and then dissolve back into our source. And of course, the question comes up, and this can be a very, almost a rite of passage into this sense of awakening or liberation. That if I am simply just this energy of a wave that's going to flow back into my source, and I don't have to do anything, I don't have to uh, be afraid of the consequences of being alive. I don't have to continually work at self-improvement and live a life of low self-worth. Then what do I do with myself when I make this awakening or discovering? And I think the answer is just to enjoy it, just to enjoy being a wave, just to celebrate it. Even if you're not quite sure you're the best wave you can be, it just simply doesn't matter, because you're the water. Okay, so we may come back to this position. So I'm just assuming you have your legs relaxed out. I'm hoping. So I'd like to come off of this for a moment. And we're going to come back onto it with a different configuration. So let's put your feet on the floor and just roll off of it. Just have maybe a little movement see how the back is doing. We weren't here that long really. And just come on off of it and just roll off of it. And I'm going to give you a few options for coming back onto it. So you may want to come back onto it. Yes, what we're going to do, and I'll give you an option without bending the knee as well, is we're going to leave the left leg extended out and we're going to try to bend this right knee back. Yeah. So right here, this may evoke all kinds of knee fears, and I don't think I can, or I don't want to, or I know I can't. If you have made that decision ahead of time, then we'll give you another option for that. If you want to try it, this is why I have the bolster here, or you can have your pillows and blankets there. And you can even bring these up more because this will take a lot of this pressure, especially off the knee. It puts a little bit more into the quadricep. So we can do this position supported, yeah? You could also do it without any bolstering at all. It works well just in its full position. So if you want to come down into this position, you may want a little something under the foot. You notice my knees coming up a bit. It's just the contraction of the quadricep. Once it relaxes, it hopefully will settle back down, maybe, maybe not. So you can do this with or without a lot of bolstering, or you could do this with the bolstering. If you're not going to bend the knee back, then bend the knee forward. So you'll put the right foot on the inside of the left leg in sort of a half butterfly pose. So this is the option for those of you that know your knees probably much better than I know your knees. So either way, the not bending the knee back this way, the bending the knee back with the bolstering, or nothing back there and just the full position. But whatever position you have chosen, do check in with it and do make sure that you are going to really be able to relax in, draw in, be safe. once we, really commit to relaxing and moving into the physical body and just feeling, just having this, this level of somatic intimacy, very quickly we see that it's not just simply the body that's relaxing, that there's an element of, let's just say energy at the level of the mind, at the level of mental sensations. So we want to make sure that we respect that, and we don't try to discipline the mind. We don't try to discipline the thoughts that are streaming, but we can be interested in the impulses that come up. And this can be anything for anyone. So no need to control, no need to discipline, but we get to see, just as we get to see over the course of the physical asana, how the body can either tighten or sensations shift, or we just completely relax, or we fall asleep at the physical level. We can also watch the impulses of the mind, the impulses of your thinking process. Because this is what Stephen was suggesting is the foundation of this relationship to life and death, is that the thoughts arise, this appears to be life, this appears to be identity, ego, and then that thought fades, and then it's gone, it has died, literally. And we want to see that, we want to be able to explore that. And if there's something that is persistent, if there's something that is obsessive, again, no need to discipline it, but observe the impulse and observe your relationship to it. Are you pushing it away? Are you trying to suppress it? Are you judging it? Or are you just able to allow it to arise, to be a wave of its own, a thought wave that arises and then again flows back into the ocean of your consciousness? Good. So if you do have that right knee bent back, my suggestion to come out of this is just to start to lean over. We'll kind of roll to the left. And once you've made a little space, you may need to roll all the way over, but then hopefully you can unhinge that right knee and let it relax. Yeah. Yeah, so that would be the first step. Once you get that unhinged, if you're not on the bolster, then you're fine. Just lay flat. If you have that right knee bent up forward, you can relax it out. And whoever's on the bolstering pillows or bolster, you can put your feet on the floor and then come all the way off of it. Although you pretty much, when you rolled off, you pretty much maybe came all the way off the bolster. So just come off the bolster completely, relax your legs out. We'll take just a little short rest here because we're going to keep going into the lumbar area and the mid back area. So we'll take a little bit of a rest. Good. So that's good. Let's come on up. And what I would like to do to keep going back is I would like you to make 2 rolls. And as you can see, I've made them pretty much the same height. And also I've made one of them not fully rolled, so I can have them the same height. So you can unroll them or roll them as much as you need to. This, I'm not suggesting this height. I know it works for me. So feel free to unroll your blankets as much as you need to, but pretty much the same height. Yeah, because they're going to press and pull a little bit in the lumbar area, and that's what we want. So get the 2 rolls and bring them together. So almost it's like one roll, but they're going to serve a little bit of different function. And then sit on the floor in front of them, so they're in the back, and hold on to the back one. So you can kind of pull it in a little bit so it doesn't slide. Very good to keep your feet on the floor. Very good to come down to your forearms and do an initial check-in to make sure this is going to be compatible. If not, you can re-roll them, please do. And then when you feel like you're ready for the next stage, then you can allow your upper body to come back, still keeping the feet on the floor. So I make a few adjustments here, maybe snuggle out a little bit, make sure it's okay. Make sure the top one hasn't slid forward so it's way up near the shoulder blades. We want it relatively low. So it's like mid, more lower lumbar area. No, excuse me, the back one, mid, lower thoracic area. That front one obviously is in the lumbar area. So you just want these 2, and you may feel this. You may feel like that bottom one is right up in the lumbar, and that back one is kind of pulling, it's tractioning the spine a little bit. That's exactly what we want. Then when you're all done, let the legs just relax out. So just kind of softening in. And always taking care and making sure that your body is acclimating to a position that is just right for you. So this is why we have pillows and blankets and bolsters, because your body is different every day, all day long. And we don't try to just fit the body into a preset template based on what we did last week or the day before. We want to be very, very sensitive to how the body is feeling, how it's holding contraction, how it's holding anxiety, and set it up so it's appropriate for you to relax and drift and not have to in any way improve your experience, to just be with your experience, whether it's something physical that's uncomfortable, some uneasiness in the heart, uneasiness in the mind. We're not wanting to fix or push anything away. This is what I was saying about the mind. We want to allow these impulses to arise so we can bring them closer and see what they are, see why they're with us. Ultimately, we want to see that the wave is only made of water. So it's got a lot of momentum, a wave. In some areas, typically, this is an interesting thing to look at, momentum, but typically the wave has years of identity, years of ego layering, self-importance, many, many things. So we want to look at that. We want to see what is that made of, and see that ultimately it's just made of water. And feel that freedom and that aliveness, that it's okay to flow back in. And whenever you're invited to investigate your feelings, this is where the sensitivity and the subtlety really is important. So we get to drift into the texture of the body, but we're also, floating in the fabric of the mind. And we want to begin to see at some level that these sensory feelings and these mental feelings are more and more challenging to actually separate, to tease apart. And this is good. We want to see this. We want to see that there's not a solid center. There's not a list of labels and definitions that make me me. That below the surface, at this level of sensory feeling and mental feeling, it's all just movement and energy. So allow yourself to really just let go of the need for this this reification process. Let go of the need to put things that are conceptual, things that are changeable into something solid. We don't need that level of imagery. Even body, we can drop the label of body, we can drop the label of mind, of heart, and just feel. Allow yourself to relax to the point where you really can't tell whether you are the wave or the water. You really can't tell whether you are separate, finite mind or infinite mind, pure mind, empty mind. Good. So let's have a little bit of movement here. Two choices here. You can put your feet on the floor and just move the body back. So you bring the pelvis up on these rolls. Nice way to release this. Or you can put the feet on the floor, let the knees sway side to side a couple of times, loosen things up, and then just roll off of it. But either way, take your time. This has been this is with the two rolls, it has a little bit more depth. It's a little more interesting, I think, sometimes than one roll. So whatever muscular stuff is there, we want it to feel really as loose as possible before we make any movement. So either the pelvis is up, a little movement there, knees back and forth, some movement there, and then work your way out of this, off of these rolls, And we'll take a bit of a rest because we're going to do the other side, but that was really one after the other. So we'll take a rest here and see what happens. So just put yourself in any position that feels most restorative for that area we were just compressing. And we'll just take a little bit of time here. And this study, if you will, it really is a study of the nature of ourself. It becomes really, really interesting when we sort of overlap this exploration of the physical body. Yeah, so we definitely want the physical body to feel healthy and fluid and relaxed and maybe even youthful, but we want a sense of suppleness in the body. Yes, so we can work at that way. We can work so directly when we feel discomfort, when we feel contraction, when we feel pain, we learn how to work with that. Yes, we're understanding finally that we don't have to shy away from that. That's a message to pay attention. Same thing with the mind, however. So when the mind is at unease, when the mind is holding anxiety or judgment or however it comes up for you, the same thing. We want to learn how to bring that closer. We don't want to continually indulge our strategies to get away from our direct experience, because the anxiety flowing through the nervous system, the anxiety flowing in our conditioned psychology, if you will, also has something to teach us. What is that, the nature of that anxiety? Can I bring that close? Can I sit with it instead of just responding to my strategy of avoiding it? And this is what I mean by observe your impulses, because the impulses will usually have woven in them a strategy to avoid feeling mentally uncomfortable. Yeah, maybe go to the refrigerator or even music, or we all have them. So we're training, if you will, we're studying how to sit with what is. Doesn't matter if it's comfortable, uncomfortable, anxious, triggered, layered, confusing, just to sit with it, just to breathe with it, just to relax with it and bring it as close as possible and then see what's there. And this is what I've been doing. My practice this week is being like, oh, that's just part of the wave. That's just the wave. That's just the wave. Don't have to take it too seriously. Don't have to fix it. Just let it be. Let my experience be as it is, because it's just made of water. And eventually it's going to flow back in. Okay, so I think let's do the other side of this. So same thing goes. This time we're going to extend the right leg out. Have something maybe in the back for you or not, depending. I mean, it'll be different from side to side. But what I was doing is I was suggesting initially to bend this left knee back. Yeah, so we're going to have some quadricep there, and then maybe just check in with the bolster. That might be just perfect. Or you may want to experiment removing the bolster. You may want to bring some other stuff under it So if you have just a bolster without a second bolster, you could put pillows back there and just keep building this up till you have it just right. So it's like, okay, you know approximately how long we're going to hold it. I bolster myself up, appropriate place. I can relax, feel safe, explore, and then that's it, or nothing. Or if you are feeling no to the knees, bending them that way, just put that bolster in, or put your pillows and put that left side of the foot on the inside. So you're getting some of the knee bending, not too compressive, but something, and you're still getting the backward bend. Yes. Okay, good. Of course, this imagery that I'm, enjoying and sharing with you of being simultaneously a wave and the ocean. This, of course, is the imagery of our yin and our yang. This is the imagery of light and dark. So we're not attempting to be one or the other. We're not attempting to transcend anything. We're simply wanting to appreciate that's our essential nature. Our essential nature is this vibration of contraction and expansion. And so how we then play with, yes, this, how we then reify this essentially energy that cannot be put into concept, that's the game we get to play. That's the fun part. We can call it whatever we want. We can image it however we want. But it's also valuable to just become quiet and feel it. Just become as still, as silent, as relaxed, as safe, as open as you possibly can. And then it's just at a whole different place. And we don't need the imagery. We don't need the language. We don't need all of this conceptualizing. It just is. And this is why, if you are able to allow yourself to dissolve into the beating of your own heart, that's all you need. This is your aliveness. Allow yourself to dissolve into the rhythm of your own breathing. This is aliveness. So once again, depending on where you are, if you do have that left knee bent back, I'm suggesting to lean over to the right as much as you need to release it. And then you may or may not be on a bolstering. Take a moment, let's let the knee open up here. If you had the sole of the foot on the inside of the leg, let that relax out. And if you're on the bolster, we'll make our way off of it, just nice and slowly. Always good to have the feet on the floor. And then we'll come off this, and we'll just, again, we'll take that short little rest, and we're going to go back to the 2 rolls, believe it or not. So take a short rest, relax for a bit. I also think, part of the rest, and I think it's good to take a moment and recognize this and really think about this and explore this, is that we are taking a rest from having to process information. So this approach, and I would say all of yoga, but that's another story, but our yoga becomes a container where we're not needing or wanting to process information. We're wanting to literally relax into the visceral intelligence of the body, mind, heart. Just relax into it and see what is revealed. And if something uncomfortable is revealed, is evoked, great. We get to stay with it. We don't have to take in more information. We don't have to come up with a strategy to avoid it or suppress it. We simply sit with it. We simply allow the physical, mental, emotional impulses to be. So what I'm suggesting is, at some level, this is very, very restful to put some time aside for yourself to not have to process information. And nothing wrong with information, but it's a very, very small part of the wave. And the wave is a beautiful, massive, complicated edifice that contains all of you. And if we're just focused on information, knowledge, information, we build this sort of wall that separates the rest of who we are out of it. So we want to relax. We want to give ourselves this open freedom to be aware that we are the ocean as we are the wave. And the information and the knowledge really can't go there because it's just the part of the wave that's getting ready to crash. Okay, so let's come on up before I keep not making sense. Yes, let's go back into a pose. Not that that will stop me, huh? So come on up from here, and those maybe those same two rolls, you know, you may think like, oh, my back sort of responded well. I'm going to go with the same height, or I'm going to maybe even roll them up a little bit more. We just want two rolls squished together nice and tight at whatever height's appropriate for what you're dealing with. You may even want to suggestion to, if it was way plenty the first time, just to go to one roll. So please take that option if you like. The one roll will not then affect more of that lower thoracic that I mentioned. So with the one roll, I'm just right here in my lumbar spine. Yep, just compress it. When I add the second roll, that's going to restrict a bit that lumbar area from just taking all the compression. It's kind of, like I said earlier, it's pulling. Yeah, so I'm feeling this pulling from the top of my lumbar into, you know, maybe the bottom 4 vertebrae of my thoracic spine. Oh, yeah, and then the 2. It's kind of intense, I know. And then let your legs relax out. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And please don't interpret that what I'm saying is in any way difficult, uh, esoteric, spiritual. It's almost easy, or it's almost deceptively easy to just simply relax into this ocean of expansive consciousness because it's who you are. We don't have to find it or cultivate it or hope that it happens or do mantra or rituals. That's who we are. So the invitation of deep, genuine letting go, relaxation, meditation is just to be that, just to feel that this is who you are. And then we begin to add things, then we begin to question, we begin to process. So we want to see that the wave, the structure of the separate self, the ego mind, is just patterns of energy. It's just patterns of energy, just like it would be currents of water that make a wave. But they come and they go, they pulsate, they're alive and they die. So very, very closer than close is this relaxation into this wide open spaciousness, this wide open field of awareness. This is who you are. And we get to rest there. We can feel that. It's right there. And then something arises. That's a wave. You just let it do what it does. There's a pattern of energy. Interesting. You just watch it. You let it flow. Nothing to fix, nothing to judge, nothing to identify with. The wave, just as valid as the ocean just as much part of you as the wave. This is why, most of our, traditions, spiritual religious traditions, have some form of be still and know. So all of this, it takes place in the vastness and the depth of stillness. Wherever you might be feeling a buildup of density, just allow the breath to deepen in and saturate it a bit. So nice and slow, not pushing, not forcing, but the breath just being able to kind of melt into it, to flow into it. So we don't even really know what it is. We're just calling it a contraction of density. And we're allowing the breath to kind of lean into it a bit, soften it a bit. And this can be something very specific or a general area. We just don't know. It doesn't matter. There's nothing static about your body. And then again, when you're ready, the two choices would be to, well, either way, you'll put your feet on the floor and then some knees back and forth, bring the pelvis up onto the rolls that you have, or yeah, the rolls, yeah. And just sort of sway, have some movement. And now we will get ready to take a longer rest since we finished that, all that backward bending. And I do think this is helpful when we really begin to start to kind of feel into this, this the body image less as an image and more of this sort of somatic intelligence. I think it's very helpful to not see it as static, even if it feels stiff and achy and restricted. It's never static. On some level, it's not static. And I think it's very, very helpful to start to imagine that it is just patterns of energy. And those patterns of energy have the ability to morph into patterns of information. And this is the process that's you. This is the process of your body. The patterns of energy morph into patterns of information that allow your cells to communicate with your organs, allow your organs to communicate between themselves, allow sensory information to trigger imagery in your brain mind. So it's in a way, it's an outdated image idea we have of our body, that it's this static machine that has an aging process and it responds to this or that. It's a much more creative than that. And we want to be able to not only listen in, but participate in that creativity. So how we maintain, another way to talk about these patterns of energy, these patterns of information, is at the level of our vibration. We're not worried about the circumstances, particularly the situation of these processes, but can we heighten, keep our vibration very high, moving, open, loving, joyous, safe? Yes, we can. Of course we can. This is called creativity. I'm reading Bill Bryson's new book. It's called The Body. And those of you that know him, he's a very quirky kind of writer. But what's interesting about this book, it's not sort of a scientific, in-depth exploration. It's more sort of a quirky exploration of the body. But still, what's very interesting is, for everything that we know and we've discovered about the body up to this time, how much we don't know, how much of your body is just shrouded in mystery. And it's just so, it's so beautiful to appreciate that, to appreciate that we get to inhabit and we get to live in this organism that is just so mysterious. And to let that be okay, to live with that and appreciate that and understand that the mystery is its own form of intelligence. And that's when we really start to awaken and unlock our intuitive awareness, because we're the intuitive awareness merges with that mysterious awareness, and then we have a whole different language and way to be. Okay, so let's come on up. And maybe after all that backward bending, you're saying, oh, I wish we could just go back to where we started. And yes, indeed, we can. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to then extend this out. But let's begin right where we started with your, the bolster, yes, but I didn't show it. Not that I need to show it, but I need something to do here in my living room all by myself here. You could use pillows, yep. So the pillows work just as well. Just want to tuck something up under the knees. Yeah, so it's the same thing. It's nice. So you feel that the femurs relaxing out of the hips. No pressure on the knees, nothing on the hamstrings. Softening. This is all about the lower back. Yep, just relaxing, softening. Although I'm not actually completely by myself. I do have one student here, my lovely wife, but I think she fell asleep some time ago, so we'll see. A very fine line between yin time and nap time. I do realize that, so please feel free to. You certainly won't miss anything that I'm saying. Stillness and quiet. through stillness and quiet, we can allow our mind and our heart to rest in our beingness. And then we're in our natural state. Good. So let's come on up from here. And I'm going to suggest to remove the bolster, and we're just going to open the legs to hip width distance. So how I like to define hip width distance for these forward bends is what the hips and the belly can accommodate. So you want to open the legs so the hips are relaxed and where they're not so close together that the belly is going to hit onto the thighs. Yeah. So this depends on your hips and your belly. So you can open them to give some space here between the upper legs and to let the hips relax. So you see my feet, maybe you can't, but my feet are just splayed out because my hips are relaxed. I've got enough space for my belly, and then just relax in. Yep. And again, be aware if there's a tentativeness, a feeling of concern about the muscles in the neck, the upper spine. You want to use the weight of the head to explore that, and this will help connect and articulate the spine all the way down to the lumbar. And of course, use any kind of propping up front if you want to rest on it, rest the head on it, rest the torso on it. You're always feeling free to pendulate a bit, which means that you're not stuck there. You're no need to struggle. So playing your edge is just kind of flirting with allowing the tension to be there, but also relaxing and feeling safe. Also knowing though that sometimes if you come out a bit, and this can just be, a few inches, let everything relax. It often makes room for more depth or just a different perspective, a new perspective. So don't ever feel stuck in the pose. Don't ever start to struggle with it. The pendulating doesn't mean you're not doing something correctly. Quite the contrary. If you're listening to your body, you're doing it correctly. If you're giving yourself some space, letting the body rest, letting it know you're listening, it's going to respond. So never be concerned with anyone else's agenda for your body. Good. So let's come on up from here, from hip width distance. And then we'll open the legs just as wide as you're able to. So we'll just come to a straddle here. So this will put a little more tension in the hip. So this is good since we let them relax with hip width. So a little bit more tension in the hips. And this is where you want to be careful again, where you're applying and how much of this upper body weight, especially because upper hamstrings are involved, etc. So bolstering any way that feels supportive, again, so you can rest quietly and safely for an extended period, knowing also that you're kind of flirting with your edge. So if you need to withdraw, adjust, or just kind of feel something and move something, it's perfectly okay to do that. So we try to understand that the stillness of this practice, the silence of this practice, is just simply the container. And if we need to make adjustments for the body, we're also listening how the body works within that container. We're not trying just to hold still. That's not stillness. Stillness is that, like I was saying earlier, that just relaxation into this open field of spaciousness that we already are. And then if we make adjustments within that, that's just what we do. a deep inward relaxation. Essentially, yoga is a very direct, clear invitation to relax below these dualities of should and shouldn't, good and bad, and just rest in the simple realization that we are the wave and the ocean simultaneously, and we get to play, we get to express ourselves. This is what Stephen was saying when I opened, that we don't want this fear, this contraction, this fear that I'm going to end, that I am going to die, to inhibit our expression of life. Good. So let's come on up and let's take another rest from this forward bending. So I was saying earlier, when we start to loosen our conceptual framework that the body is completely solid and stuck even in these pockets of density, and start to imagine more that they are just these patterns of energy and patterns of information. So then we can switch to a more practical application and start to understand that anatomically, the primary conduits, if you will, the primary pathways of experience for this energy information is through the fascia, because it's everywhere. So practically, as we compress and release and compress and release, we're opening up these pathways for the information, for the energy to flow. And this is, each person's individual study. So how we slow down and move the body and compress and release and compress and release and feel and listen, it's an ongoing thing. It's changing for me all the time. So we just come up with this basic framework of really paying attention and making sure that we're in an intelligent relationship with our pain and discomfort, or that we understand its function. We understand its function to guide us. And then how do we listen to that? And it's really very beautiful. It's really, yoga started out as a very, very self-guided practice. And I think we all have the capacity to bring it back to that, to really listen to our own sense of internal intelligence and how the wisdom of the body can guide us. So if you would please come on up, and I have the big bolster here, but I also put a blanket, 2 blankets and a towel, because the blankets were a little softer, and I'm going to try it with that. So if you have the big bolster, use the big bolster. If you don't have the big bolster, just make a nice big pile here. And what I simply want you to do is to sit in front of it, put the feet on the floor, the hands maybe a little behind you, and just elevate the hips up and place the back of the pelvis on here. Yeah, so the flattest part of the pelvis. Yeah. So this is a kind of high. Well, we could be in the lower back with this, but we're not. So upper body comes down, supportive, feet back on the floor, make some adjustments. So it's really pelvis, and there's no straining or very little tension in the lower back. Yeah, that's much better. And then I would like you to open your legs, maybe just a little wider than the hips, and this will kind of tease open that sacral area a bit, and let your arms be where they will. It might be nice to put the arms over the head if you can do that, just out to the sides of it, so the whole 4 corners of the body are open, and then we have this pelvic compression right here. So we open the practice with this observation about the relationship to really being able to live a life free of fear based on our willingness to let go of the contraction around death. So another way to approach this is from the energy of impermanence. So one of the things that we can do, if we're open to using this metaphor, and really let it be open and playful, but that what we can do at this level of impermanence is that anything that we can identify, anything that is in the realm of our objective experience, that's the wave. That's us identifying ourselves as a wave, whether it's anything in our perceptual field, anything we could possibly think, anything we could feel is objective. We can have a distance from it. We can experience it. It's impermanent. It's the wave. Not that we can't be interested in it. We can't explore it. We can't process it. We can't enjoy it. but we simply don't want to get attached to it. We don't want to project permanence on something that is impermanent. We want the wave, ourselves as the wave, to be the wave and not forget and remember and sit with a simple, quiet recognition that at the same time, we're the ocean. Just as we open by bringing an awareness of our breathing and attention into the pulsation of the heart, let's at this point do the same thing with the center of the pelvis, the sacral area. So very much a center, if we can find a center, but the center of the heart, the center of the belly, the center of the pelvis. So just a gentle breath and a gentle awareness. And again, just to allow breath, awareness, softness to just permeate this area. Anything that feels a bit dense, let the breath soften into it. And from the breath moving into this area, you can put your feet on the floor. If you would like, you're also welcome to stay here for a longer time. I know this is such a valuable place to explore. So if you've had enough, you can put your feet on the floor. It's nice in this position to bring the knees up to the chest and have a little swaying and just a little exploration. You can even bring the knees up over the head if you'd like. So whatever feels best here. You can stay in the position if you would like, of course. or if you would like to roll off of this bolstering and sit up, we will take some time to close here. So your choice. All things arise, suffer change, and pass away. This is their nature. When you know this, you become still. It is easy. Namaste.